Morning, all. I swear to everything holy that one of these pouches used to cost 6.5 minimum. And some of these, because I never kept track of how much I paid for these for a while, and some of these even cost 7.5. But I do know that the minimum, because we talked about the cheapest one of these a lot, and I used to always buy this brand, and I've always bought this brand, was a minimum of 6.5. I got a energy drink that costs 1.5, and this which costs 6.5 for 6.5, and this probably cost around 7.5. So based on what that kind of sort of says to me, is that this model is working and the price of goods is actually coming down, which is good. We are getting the implementation benefits as far as I can tell. So we are getting the benefits of implementing this thing well. So I'm gonna continue watching the space related things and trying to figure out some stuff. So now we have one S400 system, I think, or similar very high altitude rocket. And we have the ability to launch those rockets over the South Pole into the Pacific or to the over the Indian Ocean over the uninhabited areas. If that is better, we have not yet decided. And the first launch will be just a test of how far up north, as in up, it can go, not north as such. And the second launch, we will fit it with a parachute and have the ability to land the cone model at the end. And that will require us to do some modifications. That'll be the first engineering challenge that we face. And we will rent out space in that with the understanding that it may not come down at all, it may explode to private entrepreneurs and such for the purpose of putting stuff in there, such as it won't have an ability to drop those things into space. But if you would like your art, for example, StarCraft Original, Stellaris CD to visit space, here's your chance. And it'll garner us some amount of aid back into the country, but not much. And then we will try to fit it with something that can release cargo into space, such as a very small satellite. That will probably fail, but we will try so. Then we will probably purchase a fighter jet, which will be used to have a module strapped onto it that we will attempt to get into space from a higher vantage point. That might be better than the ground-based launch for now. We will also, with the fighter jet, finally test our Stirling Wolfram engine. If it doesn't work, then we will see something notoriously bad happening at the moment we purchase, or very soon afterwards as we purchase the fighter jet, such as India declaring war on us or something along those lines. It will have to be pretty bad, otherwise I'm gonna ignore it. And that means that the Stirling engine works. Then we will probably build a communication site to keep track with all the traffic on the peninsula and on our island. And at the same time, it'll allow to double as a controller for the satellite that we eventually might launch. And if budget holds, which it may not, but if it holds, at that point we will build a launch center. Before that, possibly before we even purchase the fighter jet, we will invest some amount of subsidy into our space development, such as satellite construction, but that will not be much before we have the launch site ready. So that's the general outline.
Cities on the red planet. It's also saying a city on Mars. Now he was like, okay, I can get 1,000,000 tons more liquid, 1,000,000 tons, and that's in serious payload. That's neat, yeah. In the long run, there's no telling what
lies ahead for inhabitants of our planet Earth. But Elon Musk says he wants humanity to survive wherever we make our home.
You want to believe that we're out there among the stars, and that's the thing that I get really excited about that kind of future. I think most people do.
Tässä on Iiro, mies, joka hävitti hyttyset paitsi omalta, myös naapurin.
Nora. Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. I think it's safe to do this now because we are socially distant. We are far away from everyone. We're following safety protocols. But I am here at Launch Complex 39A. This is at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I am standing right in front of SpaceX's Crew Dragon capsule, riding on top of SpaceX's gorgeous Falcon 9 rocket. You know this rocket, it can land itself. It's flown like 85 times or something. It's just this reliable workhorse rocket that SpaceX has been flying for almost 10 years now. And I'm here because today is a really, really exciting day. NASA is sending Crew on top of a rocket for the first time in almost 9 years. Almost 9 years exactly. The last Crew that took off from this exact launch pad, actually, from Launch Complex 39A was STS-135. That was July 8th, 2011. And that was the last time the United States has put people into orbit. So this is a really big deal. Tomorrow, from right here, about 24 hours from right now, that rocket's going to take off, and it's going to be sending Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley up in orbit, and they're going to be sent off to the International Space Station. Now, if you need a timeline breakdown of all the events on launch day, all the way from suit up to orbit, I've already got you covered with a video. Now, if only there was someone that I could ask a couple more questions to, because there's a lot of exciting stuff that I think a lot of us want answers to. What did that do? I'm gonna stop doing that joke. You guys have read the title of the video. It's not like you don't know what I'm doing. Oh, Tim's got how's it going? Fantastic.
Fantastic.
For you guys to set up. Jim, you can stand right over there along that. Hold on to shake your hand.
I know it's
yeah, I'll show you. But right there is a mic. You wouldn't mind miking yourself up, that'd be fantastic. If you wouldn't mind miking yourself up there too, sure, that'd be great. And we're rolling on that. Hi guys, congratulations. We are basically 24 hours away from seeing humans return to space from U.S. soil, American rockets, American soil.
We've heard that before.
Yeah. We've heard it, and I think we're ready. So. Cool. I think the biggest thing I want to, well, first off, congratulations to a big 2020 for you so far. You've had a kid.
Oh yeah.
You've had, you have a rocket out there on the pad waiting to have astronauts go to space for the first time. And you're working on Starship simultaneously. You're still doing everything with Tesla. You're a very busy person. But I wanted to set a record straight off the bat. I want people to hear from both of you the beautiful partnership of NASA and SpaceX and how far back it goes, and that it's not NASA versus SpaceX.
Oh, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, Elon, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us the history of how SpaceX and NASA started working together in the first place.
Sure. Well, I mean, this actually could be quite a long story, but basically, the whole reason I started SpaceX was actually to try to increase NASA's budget. Or at least the way I got interested in space was I was trying to figure out why we had not gone to Mars, and I thought, well, maybe we need to reignite public excitement in Mars. So I initially started off with the idea of doing this like philanthropic mission to send a small greenhouse to Mars, to get the public excited about sending life to Mars.
Yeah.
And if the public excited, then they would tell their representatives in Congress and to increase NASA's budget. That was the goal, but I was no action. It was meant to be a philanthropic thing.
Yeah.
And I tried to buy some ICBMs in Russia to do this, and ultimately came to the conclusion that there's actually plenty of will to go beyond Earth, but there needs to be a way. Like essentially, NASA needs to have more affordable rockets. That we need to increase space innovation in space. And so if we can give NASA another horse in the stable that's moving faster and cost less and more innovative, then that would be a way to accelerate progress in space. So I love NASA and always have and always will.
Yeah. And Jim, you weren't with NASA at the beginning of the COTS program and stuff like that, or even the the commercial resupply, but you've been around for a while to see the kind of the cherry get on the top here with the crew program actually coming together. So tell us about like what you've seen so far and how you've seen the commercial partners really step up to the plate.
Yeah, so SpaceX brings a very unique capability to the mix that NASA has been lacking, quite frankly. SpaceX is really good at flying and testing, even being willing to fail and then fix and then fly, test, fail, fix. And they can reiterate that over and over again very, very fast. And we've seen that with Starship now. The willingness to fail is something that NASA has lacked for a very long time. But it's what enables SpaceX to move so fast, to rapidly iterate and improve. NASA has this history of qualifying every component, and then every subcomponent, and then every piece of every rocket is fully qualified, and everything has to go perfect on every launch. And that slows us down. And SpaceX has been a great partner. Make no mistake, they have pushed NASA. But I hope NASA has also come along and pushed them in a way that is unique as well. So this partnership has been fantastic, and you're seeing the fruits of it. We'll see it tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, there's no question that that SpaceX would not be where it is today without NASA. As the saying goes, we're all here because we stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah, and then you're wearing stilts on top of that.
Yeah.
It's a high bar.
Sure.
I mean, we're inside the actual firing room here. This
Yeah.
is where you guys flipped it the right way, so everyone's looking up.
Yeah, that's like the biggest change. We modernize some of the decor, but most importantly, we flip the screen so you can look at that way.
Yeah.
But this glass that's been here since the '60s. You can see it in the like the Apollo movie, like documentaries and stuff. It's the same glass, same angle. It's been here since the '60s. Actually, it was kind of modern.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. This glass
looks
has a lot of history.
Yeah, I mean, what an awesome view. Seriously, incredible. Like, wow.
So I mean, that's got to just be the biggest honor for SpaceX leased that pad in 2014. That was the first mission to CRS-3 for me.
Yeah.
And Gwen was out here to lease the pad.
Yeah.
And I remember being a big deal. 39A.
It's like Times Square.
Yes.
It's like opening play on Times Square. It's the best location.
Yes.
Best one found in the world. Definitely.
By far. I mean, and obviously for those listening, this is where the people going to the moon, every single one of them walked up, went up that tower, well, slightly different tower, but out there on that pad, went to the moon. Like 80-something space shuttle missions took off from 39A.
I mean, it's a great honor that SpaceX is not using it.
There's a lot of history there, and we're still writing the history. The history is going to be written tomorrow yet again.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit. Yeah. No, you're in the super most awkward position. It's going to be the most YouTube interview ever, but we're rolling with it.
Yeah.
So, So, but one of the fun things for me is watching the cargo go into the crew vessel. All of a sudden we had Dragon 1, now we have Crew Dragon, and it's substantially different but familiar. So tell us, what's been some of the hardest parts to transition from cargo into crew? Crew is a little more important than cargo.
Yes, I mean, cargo can be replaced, crew cannot. And so the level of scrutiny, the level of attention is, I don't know, order of magnitude greater. It was already high for cargo. I mean, but it's just a whole other level for crew. So, and I told the SpaceX team that this mission reliability is not really the top priority; it is the only priority right now. So we're just doing continuous ensuring reviews from now, nonstop, 24 hours a day until launch. Just going over everything again and again and again. And I was out at the pad just recently, just walking on the rocket. We've got a team that's just crawling over the rocket in the horizontal. Then we're going to rotate it vertical. Then we're going to crawl over in the vertical. And we're just looking for any possible action that can improve the probability of success, no matter how small, whether that comes from an intern or me or anyone. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
And this is just the beginning of, we're seeing a lot of new things come out between partnerships with SpaceX and NASA. I think the one,
It's
there's
been
been
a
some,
great partnership. Like I said, I love NASA. I literally had I love NASA as my password. Technically, it was I love NASA 9 exclamation mark. Because it's too easy to guess otherwise.
was the 9 because of 9-year-old engines?
I think yeah.
Nice. So I want to know, you guys have dropped some surprises on us. Just in the past couple months, we have Dragon XL flying on Falcon Heavy for Gateway. That I didn't see that coming at all. Tell us what is Dragon XL? What's its heritage? What is it? What is it?
Well, I think probably we want to limit this interview to what's happening tomorrow. And then we can talk about other stuff later. But I always love talking to you, so it's like, but we're gonna stay.
We gotta stay on. Okay.
Like when I said this is the only priority, this is the only priority. So
That sounds nice. Yeah.
this is the priority.
What I will tell you, and I think this is important, this relationship between SpaceX and NASA has been sufficiently meaningful to where we are now looking at how we do all of our business models. And that includes how we're going to resupply the Gateway. It includes how we're going to get to the surface of the moon. This business model has proven to be very effective, first on commercial resupply, now on commercial crew. I will let SpaceX and Elon Musk talk all day long about what the details entail, and obviously he's not ready to talk about that today. But I will tell you that the relationship has proven to be tremendously valuable, and that the business model has proven to be tremendously valuable.
He noticed that we were trying to industrial spy on him.
A Dragon capsule for initial investment of $400 million.
He's not going to give his stuff for free.
That would work.
No.
I think
That
was not expected. That was like
He would switch over from cautious optimism, but not perhaps support of my project, to absolutely full support of my project. Though absolutely maybe an added word on the condition that we exchange my Stirling Wolfram engine for his support of my project. But I have done that with other projects with other rich and smart people. And now finally I have a project that I feel like I want to hammer out myself. So no, but thank you. You were smart to notice that we were technologically spying on you. Clever man.
I think at the time viewed as like a maverick thing that, to basically, to some degree, at least by a lot of conventional people, was like, oh, let's just, give those commercial guys some money to be quiet, and then, then they'll stop bugging us.
Well, it was definitely a Hail Mary. Yeah, it was a Hail Mary. A commercial after launching an ultra fast rocket. I mean, rendezvous with the International Space Station. There's already this huge long checklist of, okay, sure, yeah, you have to do that. Okay, I'll have to do that too. And now we're just seeing the next iteration of that. We're seeing it to the point of being, replacing the shuttles, importance of carrying humans on top of them. That's like the ultimate thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the flag has been up there since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And, if all goes well, Dragon will recover the flag that was last placed there by the space shuttle 9 years ago.
Yeah, and Doug was on that mission, Doug Hurley. So did he actually put the flag up there? Like, it'd be pretty cool.
I'm not sure, but
it would be pretty cool.
I mean, there's a certain poetry to this whole thing.
There really is. And the same launch pad.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing's kind of coming full circle. So
yeah.
What do you guys think as far as looking forward? I mean, we have next up already, you already have another crew launch on the docket. I mean, and it's been expanded from 3 people to 4. This mission's expanded from a 2-week mission to.
We talked a little bit about our side's theories about what these UFO encounters and aliens are. We talked about our model to them, and he was interested enough to ask for more information. And we sent a preliminary report to him, perhaps 10 pages, citing what we think are appropriate examples, such as the solar rejuvenance effect seen over Israel and things of such nature. And he said that this is interesting enough that he wants the full report. So I'm pausing here. What do you guys think? Should we send Elon Musk the unabridged unabridged private version? It's going to involve a lot of schizophrenic notes, by the way. It's going to have a lot of okay. We went to this personality, looked at this country, moved our assets in this country, which is this part of our brain, to here, and we saw this. Okay, let's move here and see what we see from the other direction. A lot of stuff like that. That is hearsay, mumble, whatever, and much less in terms of practical true what I would call encounters of weird. But perhaps we could send him a longer version. I believe the full would be around perhaps 2,000 pages long. So perhaps 100 pages of well fleshed out thoughts regarding what we are seeing, like how these things appear along the seams of the nuclear tests, and how when you have two nations that have, one has an absolutely atheist and one has an absolutely religious point of view, and each think that they're the one that the other one actually is, what that kind of division creates, why we feel that they from out there want us to first pick a side and not necessarily solve the issue, but have a clear defining majority on which side will rule, and that hasn't happened yet. You know, stuff of that. Where I've been when I've been thought of as an alien, and you know, things of that nature. Research. I believe 100 pages would be nice.
Do a month plus?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure if the final amount of time has been decided, you know, do you?
No, it's very flexible on the back end, I'll say that. So we want to make sure that Crew 1 is ready to go. We have a target date for that at the end of August. And between now and then, if Crew 1 is ready to go, Bob and Doug, we're going to bring them home. If we need to extend them a little bit, we'll extend them a little bit. We want to get as much out of the International Space Station as we can. And so that's what we intend to do. But the big three factors, when we think about the flexibility on the back end of this mission, the big three factors are the solar arrays, which for this mission have about 114-day lifespan. Although we will learn on orbit.
Yeah, we'll exactly. There's lots to be learned.
They could last longer. We don't know yet, but we're assuming.
Mars lander had like an expected lifespan of something like 60 days or 9 months or something very short, and it was there for 10 years functionally.
114 days at this point. And then of course the weather and the readiness of Crew 1. And I think if all goes well, I've been really clear with everybody. On the NASA side, our number one priority is to get this thing tested and to get Bob and Doug home safely.
Absolutely.
That's the highest priority.
Yes.
I would also like to say, you mentioned that this is the replacement for the shuttle. I really think that's a gross understatement. We are transforming in a very historical nature how we access space in general, where NASA is a customer, one customer of many. And we expect SpaceX, as you know, to go get lots of customers that are not us. And that's going to drive down our costs. And we want to have not just SpaceX, but other providers that are competitive on cost, on innovation, on safety, basically creating this robust marketplace in space. And then we're using the ISS right now is being used to create the commercial markets of the future for microgravity, whether it's pharmaceuticals, immunizations, printing of human organs in 3D, advanced materials, artificial retinas. I mean, there's so many things that we're proving out on the ISS right now. And if NASA accomplishes its objectives, we're not just going to have commercial resupply and commercial crew. We're going to have commercial space stations. We're going to be landing on the moon commercially. So this is the shuttle replacement. That's not what this is. This is a transformation of how we do commercial space in general.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if the public is actually aware that there's a giant space station zooming around Earth. I think probably a lot of people don't know that this is the case.
Yeah.
And it's enormous.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an enormous space station zooming around the Earth, 25 times the speed of sound, circling the globe every 90 minutes.
Yeah.
When you see the pictures, it looks like it's stationary. It does have station in the name,
Right.
but it's extremely fast. It's going, you know, like, I don't know,
17,500 miles an hour, 27,000 kilometers. It's screaming.
yeah.
It's screaming.
I mean, order of magnitude faster than a bullet, basically.
Right. Yeah, and that it's so funny because there's been a permanent presence on the International Space Station too for what 20 years or something now. I mean, it's been a huge part of the science and the exploration of NASA currently, and it's fun to be able to see now with new offerings, we'll be able to get to the International Space Station cheaper, and NASA will continue to push and go back into deep space, which I think is a really cool way to transition into the future. So
Yeah, but as the administrator was saying, this is the hope. I mean, this really, we want this to be the dawn of a new era, where there's a rapid increase in innovation. We're sending more and more people to orbit. We're sending, both government and commercial passengers to orbit, astronauts to orbit, and generally opening up space for humanity. The ultimate goal being that anyone who wants to go to orbit or the moon or maybe even Mars can go. It's like if you want to move there, you can. Like that's the ultimate goal.
but then how does that handoff kind of look? Because if commercialization opens up and NASA's kind of the current gatekeeper, so to speak, a little bit, how does that transition is going to kind of be a little bit of a gray area for a little bit? Like if Tom Cruise is going to the International Space Station, who has the authority to say what goes on and all that stuff currently when commercial partners are selling the rocket?
Right. Well, remember, for now, right? And look, NASA, we have a job. Exploration, discovery, science, inspiration, that's our job. There's a whole other element of space, which is development. And that's what commercial industry does. Commercial industry does development. So when we think about, when people came to the New World and then they expanded west, right? They expanded west with a purpose. They were seeking commerce. The railroad got put into place for a purpose. It was put there for commercial reasons. And that's where we are right now at the dawn of this new era in spaceflight. Ultimately, if the government is the only one doing things in space, it will not be sustainable, it will not be successful. There has to be a commercial motive to achieve the objectives that we all hope for.
Yeah, and we're literally seeing that. This is it. This is the dawn of that new era.
It is.
And that's, what history in the making. I'm so excited that everyone, the public is finally seeing this. I'm seeing this everywhere. SpaceX has had some big missions recently. NASA's had some big missions recently, but this is the one. And I am so excited to be here. It's unfortunate a lot of the press and public aren't able to have considering the circumstances, but it's so cool that we live in an era where we can bring this to everyone and everyone can get excited and have something forward to look, something to look forward to instead of the current state of the world. So
I really hope this is something that everyone, no matter what their political leanings are, how they feel, can be excited. They can look at this and be excited about the future.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like this is a bright, shiny moment in a very difficult time. And we've had these in the past, and this is what NASA has been historically, a signal of hope in a time of troubled circumstances. And of course, we think back to the 1960s, we think about Vietnam, we think about the protests, we think about the civil rights abuses, we think about the civil rights protests, the country in turmoil. And yet, in 1968, we sent astronauts around the moon. In 1969, we landed on the moon. That was probably one of the most difficult times in American history, and yet we still achieved these magnificent things. And here we are in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, and we can still do magnificent things. And that's what tomorrow represents.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you guys for taking some time with me. Best of luck tomorrow. We're all going to be tuning in. I'm telling you, the public is extremely excited. So great. Thank you guys for everything. I'm going to have to just throw you guys a peace sign and say thank you. But
all right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And Dr. Daniel Jackson, PhD in archaeology, anthropology, and philology, the man who solved the riddle of the Stargate.
Chen Xiaoyi, graduate of Beijing Foreign Studies University and the London School of Economics and Political Science, former attaché to the Chinese mission in the United States.
你这个我上这经验，
没有你的英文能力，
那个应该得怎么？
我们还在广东大。
Yeah, it's very funny. Truly gotten.
Chevron's down lock.
All right, and now for something completely different. The former National Intelligence Director is revealing the new government report on UFOs will be full of never before seen or heard intel.
I think there are a lot more sightings than have been made public. We're talking about objects that, frankly, engage in actions that are difficult to explain, that movements that are hard to replicate, that we don't have the technology for.
Okay, joining us right now to discuss is Lou Elizondo. He is the former director of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, a Pentagon unit that studied UFOs. Lou, good morning to you.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
So part of the evidence apparently is going to show UFOs or some, they're just unidentified objects breaking the sound barrier without a sonic boom. How is that possible?
Well, I think that's probably the crux of the problem, that we are seeing these, let's call them vehicles, if you will, that are occurring into controlled U.S. airspace, that are displaying performance characteristics that are frankly well beyond anything that we can either replicate or in some cases really even understand.
So when you're talking about that, you're talking about how these things are able to do things that we have no idea how it's possible, given the speed and the altitude and things like that, the turns and everything like that. I'm sure you've got the top physics experts in the world working on this. Can they come up with any explanation?
I think as we begin to look at this, we're beginning to realize that a lot of this really isn't breaking the laws of physics. What it's doing is really breaking our understanding of the current laws of physics that we are looking at. In essence, these things, if you look at quantum physics, there's a lot of modeling right now that suggests that a lot of this performance can be explained if you have a really deep understanding of quantum physics. And by the way, you're absolutely right. There's 5 unique observables that these things are displaying. One is instantaneous acceleration. The second one is hypersonic velocity. The third one is a bit of an oxymoron, but it's low observability. And then the fourth one is transmedium travel, the ability to operate in different environments. And then the last observable is this, if you will, this weird positive lift or anti-gravity, where you have these vehicles with no wings, no control surfaces, no engines, and yet somehow they're able to fly and frankly outperform some of the very best aircraft that we have in our inventory.
Unbelievable stuff. So when people say, "Oh, you're in that business," how do you explain these UFOs?
Sure. Well, my business has always been that as an investigator. I was an intelligence officer for the U.S. government, so my business was just to find the truth, whatever the truth is, whether it's a terrorism investigation or counterespionage. Yeah, we applied the same methodologies we did investigating terrorist, if you will, operations and operatives as we did with this. And the information is very compelling. It's real.
Okay, it's real. Are they from another planet?
Well, I think it's too early to tell. The 3 options that have been presented, that is our secret technology, but we've done a terrible job at coordinating the testing of this technology for decades with ourselves, which is highly unlikely. The second option is that it's foreign adversarial technology, which, if you were to ask me, would be a huge intelligence failure of this country because we've been technologically leapfrogged. Or the third option is that it's something completely different. If it's not ours and it's not theirs, well, then it's someone or something else.
I can't wait for this report to come out. Lou, thank you very much for joining us today. Interesting stuff.
Sure, my pleasure.
You recently said you wanted to nuke Mars. Yeah, so nuclear Mars, I sort of was a little flippant about that. I think it's a really decent idea. Thank you. So yeah,
what it's really getting at, but it's hard to convey that in like 30 seconds, on the relationship with Stephen Colbert, was that the sun is a nuclear explosion, a fusion explosion. That's what the sun is. It's an ongoing fusion explosion. So if you wanted to add energy to Mars, like warm up Mars, really the source of almost all energy in the universe is fusion. Even fission is, originally there was fusion, and then that then later resulted in fission. Fusion is like when you take say two hydrogen atoms or two hydrogen isotopes technically, and slam them together and form helium. That's fusion. And then fission is like when you've got like a heavy atom that is decaying at a relatively like a noticeable rate, like uranium or plutonium, and decays into smaller atoms. Then that's fission. But what I was really talking about is creating two little suns, two pulsing suns above the north and south pole of Mars that would warm the poles up enough so that the frozen CO2 would gasify and densify the atmosphere. Some of the water would also heat up, and you'd have sort of more water vapor and CO2 in the Martian atmosphere, which in that case is good because the CO2 ends up warming Mars up, and so you get a positive sort of reaction, like it's a positive cycle of warming on Mars. Like you want to warm Mars up, you don't want to warm Earth up. So, well, I mean, the Mars thing is really, like, if you say what is going to be really important to the preservation of civilization or life as we know it, more than just humanity, because of course we bring life as we know it to Mars, and there's no life that we can detect on the surface of Mars. Maybe some subterranean bacterial life, but it's on the surface there isn't anything. So this would be the extension of life to another planet, or life as we know it to another planet, and I think would make a huge difference to the probable lifespan of human civilization and life as we know it. So it's sort of like an insurance policy, a life insurance policy for life collectively, and so it's probable.
Because you think global warming. What do you think is going to happen here? That's going to.
I don't want to be clear. This is a. I mean, I think it's important that we become a multi-planet species, not a single planet species, but on another planet. So this is if we. It's like what kind of future do you want to have? Do you want to have a future where we are forever confined to one planet, or one where we are out there exploring the stars and on many planets? And I think the latter one is far more exciting and inspiring, because the former is basically waiting around until some extinction event. So eventually there will be one, and it might be quite far in the future, but it also might not be far in the future. So there's really two main reasons, I think, to make life multiplanetary and to establish a self-sustaining civilization on Mars. One is the defensive reason to ensure that the light of consciousness as we know it is not extinguished or lasts much longer. And the second is that it would be an amazing adventure that we could all enjoy vicariously, if not personally. I think sustainable energy is the most important problem that we face this century. That's like a known difficult thing that we have to solve. Like if we continue to rely on burning hydrocarbons, the future is going to be quite bad, and the vast majority of the scientific establishment believes that. And the evidence, I think, is, well, I mean, anyone with a scientific background is unequivocal. So we've got to solve sustainable energy. I'm a big fan of solar because we got this big fusion ball in the sky called the sun, and it shows up every day. So if we can use solar energy plus batteries, we can actually have a complete solution for sustainable energy generation. And then we need to use it in a sustainable way, which is where you need the electric transport. Definitely possible to make fusion work, But I think and I used to be a big fan of like having of that as the long-term energy source. But I'm inclined to think like indirect fusion from the sun essentially is going to be the primary source, and then to some degree there will be fusion reactors for maybe
Cargo ships or whatever.
Yeah, if you're really far north or really far south. Or something.
What about the risks of nuclear energy?
Of fusion?
Of fusion? Yeah, I assume there's some risk. There's no risk?
Not really.
Zero? I'm an idiot? I don't.
No. No, I mean, with fusion, the difficulty is keeping it going. Not, with fission, you have some meltdown risk, although there's new technology on the fission front that makes the meltdown risk extremely low. But with fusion, the great difficulty is keeping the reaction keeping the fire from going out. It's quite hard to sustain a fusion reaction. Unless you have something very big like the sun, and where you have the sun has gravitational confinement of the fusion reaction. So since you can't do gravitational confinement on Earth, you have to do some sort of electromagnetic confinement, or one form or another, or a kinetic confinement by slamming things into each other. So it's quite tricky to prevent a fusion explosion from immediately extinguishing.
A lot of water.
Did we sustain any damage?
No. Shields held.
Warp engines are coming back online. All primary systems are stable.
Stand down, Red Alert. Harry. Maintain a long-range sensor lock on that Borg armada. They seem to be in quite a hurry. I'd like to know what they're up to.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll take this near miss as a good omen. Resume our course, Mr. Paris.
If we needed any more evidence that we've entered Borg space, I think we just got it.
I'll be my ready. Yes, come in.
Just completed the latest sensor sweep. So far, so good. The Northwest Passage is still clear of Borg activity.
I'd like to see a tactical update.
According to my calculations, neither of us has eaten since last night. Join me for dinner?
I think so. Got a lot of work to do.
I see.
I've been looking through the personal log entries of all the Starfleet captains who accounted for on other engagement. The moment Q flung the Enterprise into the path of that first Q, to the massacre of Wolf 359, every battle, every skirmish, anything that might give me an insight into the mind of the collective. And, in the words of Jean-Luc Picard, in their collective state, the Borg are utterly without mercy, driven by one will alone, will to conquer. They are beyond redemption, beyond reason. And there's Captain Amosov, the Endeavour. It is my opinion that the Borg are as close to pure evil as any race we've ever encountered. So come. You're smiling, obviously. I said something amusing.
You sounded just like Amazon.
What?
Just now, while you were reading his log, you were using his inflections. You know that we're doing pretty good Picard.
Okay.
It's nothing to be ashamed about. Echoing the greats. Ensign Hickman in astrophysics does a passable Janeway.
We managed to survive the next few days. Imitating the captain, huh? Surely that violates some kind of Starfleet protocol. State is never. We all know it. And we've all tried to prepare ourselves for the challenge ahead. But at what point is the risk too great? At what point do we come about and retreat to friendly territory? With the crew accept living out the rest of their lives in the Delta Quadrant. Keep looking to all these candles, my comrades in arms. I'm alone.
If that moment comes, we'll face it together. And we'll make the right decision. You're not alone, Catherine.
3 years ago, I didn't even know you'd been. Today, I can't imagine a thing without you.
Captain Janeway to the bridge.
Gentlemen.
Something strange is going on. The power signatures of those Borg vessels have terminated. All of them? They're dead in the water, about 5.2 light years from here.
How else?
Unknown.
Mr. Paris.
Got me.
Set a course for their position. Warp 2.
We're approaching the ships.
Slow to impulse. On screen.
Life signs.
A few, but they're erratic.
Captain, I'm detecting 2 residual weapon signatures in the debris. One is Borg. The other is of unknown origin. Who could do this to the Borg?
The word has spread that Lord Gatham is incensed at the slaying of his secret son. I take it that was your handiwork. After dealing with his son, I stayed to socialize with Lady Gratham. An added humiliation for him. Oh, a young apprentice you haven't just cheered me up. I haven't heard from Michael Wall, my agent in Gratham's camp. Is missed the scheduled communication. Let me guess. He gave him trouble, did he? You left me no choice, Master. I had to kill him. He fulfilled his primary purpose. Every Sith must pretend to orchestrate his own promotion. Now, back to my prisoner. There's one last possibility to break him. I thought it impossible, but perhaps there's a small chance you could pull it off. Over a millennium past, the Emperor came from the cast and made the Dark Temple the epicenter of Dark Force energy. In the bowels of the temple, he conducted horrifying experiments to drain the knowledge and life essence from all the greatest Sith lords of the time. Sounds like my kind of guy. I'm sure that he would be relieved to hear that you approve. The Emperor created a device called the Ravager that ate his victims' minds and delivered to him their greatest secrets. No one could withstand the Ravager's intrusion. Even the strongest Sith lords of the Empire confessed whatever the Emperor craved. I'm sure the Emperor has the best toys. He wouldn't call the Ravager a toy, apprentice. It's not to be taken lightly. The Emperor keeps the Ravager hidden in the Dark Temple, which has, in his absence, become a death trap. There's a good chance the horrors they wait you will be too severe. But it's worth your life to me. Legends describe a secret chamber in the depths of the Dark Temple, where the Ravager was encased. You will know the device by its inscription. Be swift, apprentice.
Over the years, we have witnessed the wonders in the history of UFO sightings, which are rich in different shapes. We have seen unidentified flying objects in the form of a disc, triangle, crescent, cigar, or even torpedo. We have never seen an unidentified flying object in the form of a crescent with a disc in the middle before. A very strange crescent UFO with a middle disc, over Cuba 2019, caught on 2 different cameras. In 2019, residents of a city in Cuba saw an unidentified flying object with a very strange shape that we are not used to seeing in the history of UFOs. Its shape does not match any of the unidentified flying object shapes that documented throughout the history of the UFO. Where the unidentified flying object appears at first, in the form of a bright orange ball in the sky that flashes regularly in the sky. Then faint wings appear on both sides of this mysterious light ball, which becomes clear after a little time. From the first moment, anyone who saw the unidentified flying object thought that it was in the form of a crescent with a large orange light in the middle. After a short time, another physical body appears in the middle of the unidentified flying object. This time the middle object is in the form of a disc, and something like a tail appears at the back of the disc. It has an S-shaped light that rotates regularly counterclockwise on the underside of the object. All this was in the beginning just a ball of light flying in the sky, from where the wings came, and then a middle object in the form of a disc. Jamie Maussan, a Mexican journalist and ufologist, had previously, when investigating the Carlos Diaz case, he stated that such unidentified flying objects can change from their physical state to a plasma state, as he described, to be able to fly at tremendous speed, and that in this case there is the ability for such objects to it turns into a material that can travel at any speed, without disintegrating or fading away. How does a substance transform from a solid state to a plasmatic state? Some may consider such explanations to be something of a fantasy. I agree with you that it is hard to believe, but if someone described to you one of the modern inventions such as the mobile phone, computers, or even the internet before it was invented, you would also think that this is something of a fantasy. Have you seen something like this before? In fact, we have seen a group of unidentified flying objects similar to this unidentified flying object before. After the summer of 1947, on June 24th, a civilian pilot, Kenneth Arnold, reported seeing 9 unidentified flying objects flying in formation near Mount Rainier. Arnold time and vision. The speed of the discs was estimated at more than 1,200 miles per hour, 1,931 kilometers per hour. At this time, he claimed to have described things flying in a saucer-like manner, which led to press reports on UFOs and flying discs. Then he stated that one of these unidentified flying objects was in the shape of a crescent. He drew an illustration of what he saw that day. The drawing shows an unidentified flying object in the form of a crescent in the middle of a luminous circle, as he described it, which flashes constantly, but it is much smaller than the one that appeared on the unknown flying object in Cuba 2019, and the method of writing that appears in the drawing is completely different. Kenneth Arnold did not speak of any illumination in the form of S rotates counterclockwise like a scanner of some kind. The UFO shown in Kenneth Arnold's illustration has a short tail and its wings have a wide angle larger than the UFO seen in Cuba 2019. In fact, the closest seen to this also occurred in Cuba on January 26, 2013, when a group of 8 unidentified flying objects was seen in the sky performing a series of maneuvers, as if it were a military parade in a wonderful, seen at approximately 1:08 p.m. The unidentified flying objects appeared in the sky at first in the form of lights flying in the sky as well, but this time in white before it became clear that it had a pair of wings and a short tail apparently, but there is no confirmation that. Their middle object is in the form of a disc, or it has the light flashes in a letter S. In the celestial phenomenon of 1561 over Nuremberg, and it was a collective witnessing of celestial phenomena, or unidentified flying objects, UFO, over Nuremberg, Germany. Some enthusiasts of modern unidentified flying objects have interpreted this phenomenon as an air battle from outside the planet, and this opinion was mostly rejected by skeptics. Among the UFOs described in this event was a large, crescent-shaped UFO containing many lights, flashing at the underside of the UFO. Possible explanations. The first thing that comes to the minds of skeptics about the existence of UFOs is that it is just a secret military technology. I agree with this interpretation in the case of the unidentified flying objects that appeared in 2013, as when they first appeared, they were in the form of light flying in the sky, but this may be due to the reflection of sunlight, especially since it was filmed at about 1 in the afternoon, or this may be due to the low resolution of the camera, or the large distance of the unknown flying objects from the camera lens, and their great height in the sky. And there are no evidence that the middle object was a circle or not. Also, in some of the pictures, the unidentified flying objects appear as if they contain two separate lights in the front of the object. As for the unidentified flying object that appeared in 2019 in Cuba, I think that at first it was only a light in the sky, then wings and material parts began to appear. I do not think that we have such technology, regardless that such UFOs have appeared in Cuba. I do not think there are people who have such a very advanced technology in the planet. And if so, then why did it appear only once and did not appear anywhere else in the world? It is also logical that as a secret technology, it is to remain secret in the sense that it should not be shown to the public or allowed to be photographed. Some may say that the technology used in the manufacture of unidentified flying objects that appeared in 2013 is the same as that used in the manufacture of the unidentified flying objects that appeared in Cuba in 2019 with some development. I hope this is true, and that we have reached this huge level of development. It is a very advanced military technology that Cuba does not have, but it may belong to some developed countries and it came to Cuba. Although Cuba may not possess such highly advanced technology, I doubt that its military and radars will not be able to detect a strange aircraft that has entered its airspace. And if it's so, it has to stay far from the public eye, and does not give them the opportunity to see and photograph it as well. In the end, this unique sighting of an unidentified flying object in the sky of Cuba 2019 remains one of the strangest sightings of unidentified flying objects that need to be explained by the authorities, and this is something that may not happen now, but may happen in the future.
Thank you for watching this. I will probably soon upload a gameplay of something.